This is Rating Descending.
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
I'm Michelle St. Clair,
I'm Abigail Ward.
and this week we watched Cell. When a mysterious cell phone signal causes apocalyptic chaos, an artist is determined to reunite with his young son in New England. Let's watch.
So dumb. Michelle, it's 35 degrees in Melbourne.
It is.
We're sitting in your front room in your Northcote house.
Well, now with a desk, it is now our little studio.
Oh, and
if
by the
anything.
way, hi.
Hey,
It's been a while.
I can see. Hello.
Hey, we're at the same
Wowee.
table.
Oh my god.
Oh my God. It's been a hot minute because
Yeah.
last time I saw you, there weren't thousands and thousands of cases by the day. And
Yeah.
COVID erupted in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
We've been responsible and recording from our own houses, but here I am at your table, wet fucking pants. I came over to Michelle's house really hot from my walk, and I was like, I just put my legs in the shower to wet them.
Yeah.
And it's saved my life.
One of the first things you literally said was, "Can I get in the shower?" Like, not to make yourself wet, but just to make your pants wet.
Brooke's so smart though, because I went into your
That's true.
backyard trying to find a hose, and Brooke was like, "Why don't you just get in the shower?" And I was like, "Right." She's a smart woman.
She has herself together, and
She is. She's wearing
a
a swimming costume on a hot day without a pool, but that's just smart.
That's Australian culture.
That is.
You
It'd be
know.
un-Australian not to wear a swimming costume.
It's how we know who we are as a nation. Given that it is Invasion Day today, it's who we know.
Oh yeah.
We are at work because fuck that.
It really flew over my head. I got boosted today, so I've got a lot of other shit on my mind.
Yeah, well, you know,
Wet pants.
we don't want to
getting
celebrate,
vaxxed.
so we're just treating it like any other day.
Yeah.
So we're just at work and doing errands and stuff.
I feel like it's like I don't even want to ask people what they're doing for this day because I don't want them to think that it has any value to me. Go for a walk.
Go for a walk.
Stay in. We've still got a fucking pandemic rampant, so
Yeah.
maybe don't go to crowded places.
Don't go, wow, what a cool, rad day, because it isn't.
No.
Not super cool.
No. How do you feel about my wet pants?
I love your wet pants.
Do you love them?
I think it's a smart, innovative idea. I think more pants should come pre-wet.
I'm wearing these like green pants and the bottom of them are just a deeper green, and I'm so soothed and so cool. I was saying to Brooke, a teacher that I had of mine at film school gave me this amazing tip where to fall asleep on a hot day you should like soak your shirt in water and wear it, and it's like a fucking ice pack wrapped around you. It's great. You put a fan on, you fall asleep every time, baby. These are Abigail's summertime tips.
I take that a step
Summertime
further
tips.
and I freeze my shirt completely and wear it literally as an ice block, because then both not only am I colder and getting a little bit of freezer burn,
Yeah.
but also
That's hot.
I'm armored.
Yeah.
So if you come at me,
If I try and
I'm
knife
going to
you
be-
in your sleep,
yeah.
if you wake up to some intruder trying to shank you and the blade of the knife just snaps against your fucking solid
Yeah.
frozen shirt and you're like, nice try.
I'm already awake. I'm covered in ice.
This is you raising out of your bed in your little armor
I've
of
attached
ice.
them mechanically to each other. And then my girlfriend and you like attach to me as other ice pieces as I like become an ice Voltron.
You froze us as well?
You're part of this.
Okay. But
you
did
know?
you freeze us?
But no, you're also in frozen gear.
Oh, I thought you meant like we were appendages to your
No,
ice
no.
hence hence we are frozen. And I'm like,
do you even,
I'm a
do you
full
even get
human being.
Voltron?
I don't.
Oh my
at
god,
all.
you're in your own craft and our crafts are coming together as one
I
unit.
still don't get it. Ice woman?
Each of us individually have our own like mechanical structures and can do things. However, when it really needs to be all done, we can attach our structures together to create
I have
a
an
more
idea.
superstructure.
What if it's
Yeah.
like you have this like frozen shirt that is your
Okay.
armor? Mine is like frozen pants. And
Oh.
and Brooke has all these frozen
Now-
accessories like hats and gloves and
Now,
boots.
hang on,
and then when
hang
we
on.
all form together, we're one complete ice beam.
Okay, so mine is we're inside of a larger ice thing and then they attach together, right?
Oh.
If I'm wearing a frozen shirt and you're wearing
Completely
frozen
naked.
pants, what happens to my bottom half and your top half to make them attach to each
So
other?
when we all form, there's
a
one
lot of flesh
perfect
body
Yeah,
that's-
there's one perfect like ice covered form, and then the rest of our body parts are just lying in a heap next to us.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's really gory.
So it's
really
it's not
graphic.
actually ice Voltron, it's flesh Voltron.
Yeah.
Where we're actually piecing together our
Yes.
bodies.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's honestly
Pretty cool.
upsetting. I don't like it.
Pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do want to make it as
Yeah.
a movie. But I don't want it to happen. If you want it to happen, you have to tell me now, and I'm just going to have to make a few quick emergency calls. Just for my safety.
Why is your finger poised over the 0 button on your phone?
I've already got 2 zeros dialed in.
Oh my God.
Don't you make a
Just don't
freaking move.
These are our summertime tips, guys. Just become a Voltron. Vulture.
Voltron.
Don't know, I'm not a nerd.
Like a Volt? Oh
While
my
you're
God.
busy loving the Voltron, I'm getting laid. All right? And putting my shirt in some water.
Oh, yeah.
And having a little nap
So
in front of the
I'm
bed.
out there being a nerd, watching cool cartoons with my girlfriend, and you're cool because you're having sex with your fiance.
Yeah. In wet clothes.
In wet clothes.
Always wet.
Heyo.
Never the bride. Actually, no, I am the bride.
Yeah. You can't say that anymore.
Our wedding got postponed. I didn't even
Yeah.
tell you that. I forgot to mention. We're
Like
postponing the
meeting-
wedding thanks to COVID because it's useless trying to plan something amidst thousands of cases when
It's not just useless, it's irresponsible.
it is irresponsible. I want to put some space between us and the insane developments of the last month.
You know who you normally invite to weddings is your family. And you
Yeah.
know who you don't want to get sick and then maybe die is your family.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
strangers, even. You know?
Yeah.
And they're immunocompromised.
Now we're looking at a wedding in September or October, which, hey, gives me so much more time to figure out a
spring
fucking
wedding?
dress. Yeah, spring
Wow.
wedding. Ah.
And so I have more time to work on my speech. It's going to be like 40 minutes, if that's cool. I can
yeah.
maybe pare it down to 38,
Yeah, okay.
if that's cool. I'm just so excited to be your maid of honor.
Oh,
Now that we're
Michelle.
recording,
Oh, Michelle.
you know, live. This is being streamed straight to podcast.
I really just can't.
I'm so excited to be your maid of honor
Me
and give a big speech.
too, man. But we
I
can
can't
still
think
talk
of
about
something that would
'cause
devastate
nothing's-
me more than not getting the opportunity.
I mean, we might not even get married, so you know.
I think
it's nothing's a certainty.
if you don't get married, I'll still read you out the speech. I'll be like maid of honor of your breakup party. It'll be so good.
I think people should have a breakup party.
I think they should. I think
Yeah,
that's a
that
good thing
sounds
to.
fun.
I think that does sound. It also sounds like a good way to like move on.
Like, what if you've had a really shitty relationship and you're like, I'm excited to be single.
but
Fuck yeah.
it can also be like a commiserate. You know, like party doesn't necessarily mean like go out and do like you can have like a breakup board game night,
This
and
is
you're
true.
like, man, I'm devastated, and then your friend BJ is your friend BJ
Me
is
and
like,
BJ go. You know, BJ's the maid of honor, right?
what?
I've been trying to tell you.
Barricus Jones is the fucking maid of honor.
Barricus Jessica Jones.
He's not
That's
even a maid. God damn it.
Barricus Jones.
God damn it. Speaking of immense disappointments that I won't get over, this week we watched Cell.
That's a good one.
How many Stephen King adaptations have you seen? Because there's more. And like I feel like Stephen King writes the specific kind of book that we all think we know. And then you're like, wait, that's a Stephen King adaptation?
My problem is that, yeah, that's the thing. My problem is that I feel like I've probably seen films that I don't even realize are Stephen King adaptations. I've seen the things that first come to mind are things like Misery.
Mhm.
Did he
Great
write The
movie.
Shining?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wrote The Shining.
Obviously The Shining. So Misery, The Shining, Pet Sematary,
I haven't seen any of the movies of it or read the book. Oh, Carrie.
Carrie,
Carrie's a great one. Shawshank.
Shawshank. No way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, obviously Stand By Me. I know that
Stand By Me.
Shawshank is on theme because it's the number one on IMDb, and this is a very IMDb focused
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
But Stand By Me is the
I love
best
Stand
one.
By Me.
Stand By Me is a great
it's still
movie.
like Stand By Me is the reason I wanted to be a writer. I really romanticized Richard Dreyfuss playing
Yeah.
older Gordo, sitting
Yeah.
in the car looking out of his window and like having that beautiful study that he's like typing on his fucking 80s computer in green font. I remember watching that as a kid and I was like, oh, I want to be him. Like, that's the life that I want. I want to be brooding in a beautiful field in an old car with a son that I'm not paying enough attention to.
Whereas I saw Corey Feldman's character and I was like, I'm going to fuck up my ear. I'm nuts.
Whereas I saw that dog and I was like, yeah, I'm going to fucking sick balls.
Oh, I didn't know Children of the Corn was a Stephen King.
Me neither. Children of the
Wow.
Corn scared me so much. I remember someone saw a photo of me as a child and they were like, you look like one of the Children of the Corn. It's because I'm just so blonde.
Yeah, you're
Don't
also
laugh at
blonde.
me.
I'm so sorry. I'm looking
This
now
is why you're not
at
the
a
maid of
list.
honor, Michelle.
Oh, one of my
BJ wouldn't laugh at me.
One of my favorite things that is technically an adaptation of a Stephen King novel is The Lawnmower Man. If Lawnmower Man, I don't think Lawnmower Man is on this list. We should do it as a bonus episode because it is one of the wildest movies. It has one of my favorite movie quotes in history, which is Pierce Brosnan describing the character who was like an awful Rain Man-esque depiction of someone with mental disabilities, going, his mind is like a hungry sponge. So good. It's about how VR makes people into superhuman gods.
That sounds very akin to Cell.
Oh, Green Mile? Did we say Green Mile?
Oh, my God, he's done so much.
Yeah, he's done tons. I never knew about...
What else is there? How many more?
Like, I've said like 10 or something, and I'm not even like a quarter of the way through this list.
Fuck, dude.
But I can't just list this. This is nuts. There's got to be more than this.
We'll go through it after.
And one of the main ones we're missing is It.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I've never seen It, though.
I haven't seen the new movies, but I saw the miniseries with Tim Curry. It's great.
It's a miniseries. I thought it was just a film.
It's, you know that thing before streaming where they would like, it's called a mini series, but it's like 2-hour episodes.
Oh.
So it's a 4-hour movie.
Right.
You know? It's like how the Battlestar Galactica mini series it starts with is like 2 90-minute episodes.
Yeah, I got
like,
you.
You made a 3-hour pilot. That's fine. Just say
So
that.
weird.
Don't call it a mini series.
Yeah, I've never
really
seen
putting the
It.
mini in mini series.
The clowns just don't make me very scared. I've never been very interested in It because Pennywise doesn't
he's more
scare
than
me.
just a clown. His whole thing is that he can become whatever frightens you most.
Oh.
So he's only a clown sometimes.
He's like a Dementor.
Sorta.
J.K. Rowling did it first.
She didn't.
She did it first.
We don't say that name on this podcast. Don't summon her. I'm not fucking around. I had never heard of Cell, both either as a book or as a movie.
Yeah.
And then when I read the premise when trying to find it for us, I was like, this is some mad boomer energy. It being like cell phones make you zombie. That's stupid.
Wait, why did you bring up Stephen King?
Because this is a Stephen King adaptation. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't really say that out loud. This is a Stephen King adaptation.
You just asked me how many I've seen.
This is an adaptation of a Stephen King book called Cell.
What?
Yeah.
Look, there's every likelihood that you could have said it and it flew over my head. But what? That's insane.
People kind of put this in contrast to The Stand as like, because that one's about like a virus, a post-apocalyptic, but like hopeful. And this is very cynical and dark.
When did he
and stuff.
write it? Yeah, it doesn't seem like, I feel like Stephen King's better than this. Like Stephen King is better than writing a shitty film about phones taking over the world.
I don't think he is. The secret of Stephen King is that he writes like 1,000 books.
Yeah, that's true. It's very varied.
Cell came out in 2006. So it's one of his later
it's
work.
a recent one.
You know, 2006 means it was early in the cell phones are bad for you. Like you guys heard us in the opening. It literally is just a cell phone signal turns people into zombies. It is sort of like a zombie movie in all but name.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yeah, for sure. It is. I was watching it feeling like it has some good stars in it. It's got fucking John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But there's this shots of them like walking through the wilderness of like, it looks to be just like mid-America or like the deep south. I can't tell. They're going to California, right?
No.
Where are they going?
They start in Boston and they go to further north Massachusetts.
Never mind. It's
are
rural
correct,
America.
though. Some of the trivia that I didn't include point out that many of like the trees we see means that it's very obviously not even within 1,000 miles of Boston.
It doesn't look North American. It doesn't
It's
look
not.
North American. It looks like the Deep South to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was watching it being like, all of these shots are pretty, but everything they're doing in The Walking Dead did better.
Yeah, this really does the zombie genre dirty. I was obsessed with zombie movies when I was a teenager.
Were you?
Night of the Living Dead is such a landmark film for me, as well as Dawn of the Dead.
I loved Night of the Living Dead. I loved Dawn of the Dead. I loved Day of the Dead even. But I'm not a huge zombie movie person. Like I feel like, but I guess because they're such an overdone genre at this point, when I hear about a new one, I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that. But like,
I do agree.
I like the classics. I like the ones that started it.
A lot of those classics like really hold up. There was also like a period of time. I feel like when I was a little kid, there was a whole like, you know how there's memes that aren't like, oh, this is one image, but memes of like cultural concepts. I feel like there was a thing in games for a while of like ninjas versus pirates, and then there was a thing in like games for a while of zombies. Zombies are the thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's Vikings. Vikings are what pop culture has been about for a while.
Really?
Well, there was the show. There was all like Assassin's Creed did
yeah.
Valhalla. Like
yeah.
Viking Norse mythology has been like the cultural moment for a while since Game of Thrones ended.
No way.
Yeah. And then it's probably going to move on to something else soon, I reckon.
Yeah.
I feel like zombies had a moment where everything was zombie and it got a little oversaturated, but there's still like so much like great stuff. I think part of the problem is that they all have to go back to Romero, who was the one who originally went like, yeah, they're the Walking Dead. However, the real villain is the other people, which is now trite, but it was so good.
It was so good.
In the original. And like making Dawn of the Dead about consumerism, fucking genius in the 70s. I feel like Last of Us was one of the last things that really like felt innovative in the zombie genre, to be like, for one thing, it is like a fungal based infection rather than just a spiritual or necrotic thing is like a good move.
And because the theme and emotion of it is so good, it never really becomes stereotypical, but even if it did, you can forgive it because it's just so immersive. I remember one of the mentors that I had at uni, Luke, shout out to Luke if you're still listening. He basically said that he described The Last of Us really well. He said that The Last of Us 1 was exploring how far you would go for love.
Yeah.
And The Last of Us 2 was exploring how far you would go for hate.
Yes.
And I was like, that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
And that's exactly why it's such a strong franchise, is that they perfectly bounce off each other as well.
Yeah. Let me do the overview, and then so that we can launch into talking about actual Cell.
What I was really just before we do.
Sure.
Something that I love as I get older is being less and less online. It's so good for the soul. It's so good for you to just fucking remove yourself from these toxic fucking platforms where people that you would never really encounter in your day-to-day life because your politics are so far removed from one another's, where you have to be exposed to their own shitty line of thinking. Like the day that I fucking quit Facebook, the day that I just stopped automatically like clicking into Instagram as often as I did, my mental health, my mood just fucking skyrocketed.
The only place online that I think you should really go to is your favorite podcast app to
drop us a review.
Just drop us a review.
And your email provider.
All right, let me get into the overview. So, some of the key details. This came out in 2016.
That fucks me up.
I know.
I thought it was like 2009 for sure. 2010. Despite the phones, I was like, this is surely 2010.
I will say, I'll get into more of it much later, but it was technically filmed in 2014.
What?
Or finished in 2014.
Always a red flag.
Yeah. The director was Todd Williams, who mostly very short filmography that ends with Cell. But he's done Paranormal Activity 2 and something called The Adventures of Sebastian Cole.
I don't know how I feel about titles that have a full name in it, to be honest.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for a movie title to be just called something, like someone's name, because I'm like, who is that? Even that movie Michael Clayton, which I think is a modern classic.
Oh my God, that's so weird that you brought that up. I watched it for the first time 3 days ago.
Oh, that movie's fucking great.
Oh my God, it's so good.
But
and
also,
you know why I watched it?
Yeah.
It's Karen Kilgariff's favorite film.
Oh, wow.
And me and Claude were like, oh, we should watch that. And then the other night we were like, what should we watch? And we saw it on Stan and we we're like, let's watch that. It was so good.
It's a great movie.
So tight and so like no one talks about it.
No.
I feel like it's a sleeper hit. Like it's forgotten, but it was
also,
so good.
Michael Clayton is a bad title for it.
It's so,
because
that's
who
what
is
we kept
that?
saying. Oh
Who
my God.
is that?
Oh my God.
Terrible
You know what
name.
is a good name though? On the flip side, as a film, Benjamin Button. And it's just because it's a great name.
No, I think it's mostly because it's more about his curious case.
That's true. That's true.
All right.
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. That's it. It sounds quirky. It sets up the tone for me. I get it.
As we said, this is also starring John Cusack and Sam Jackson. Two people I'm very surprised haven't been on this list yet.
Yeah.
It's also got Isabel Furman, who is mostly the girl from Orphan, and basically no one else is notable except for Stacy Keach was the teacher.
That guy was
school.
really familiar. He had a great voice.
The budget, I could not find anywhere for the life of me. I did more research than I've ever done on finding the budget, and I couldn't find it. All I could find is different looks at the box office. What do you think the box office is?
Oh, see, the thing is, it's got Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, so you'd think that would be a draw. But I've never heard of this film. I think 10 million.
Most reports I found, and I found a lot of conflicting things that were similar though, about 1.1 million.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't even know what the budget is.
Fuck, man.
Also, this is, I think, one of the first movies in a while that there's no returning actors at all.
Oh, wow.
Which surprised me. Sam Jackson is in like 110 movies or something. Like, that surprised me.
I was certain while watching it that this was the second time John Cusack had appeared. And it's simply because when I was in Sydney and staying with Lauren showed me Con Air for the first time.
Oh, Con Air is so fucking good.
Con Air is so good and so bad, but so good. Like, it's bad in all the good ways.
Okay,
it's so camp. It's tropey.
It's funny that you say that because literally in one of my notes, one of my things about John Cusack is I love him in Being John Malkovich and I love him in Better Off Dead. Like he's good at playing the loser and the cool guy. And one of the things I hate watching him as is the action hero.
Yeah, and he's like this really fucking smug detective in Con Air where there's this bit where he's like, what would you call him? Loquacious, vivacious, is his vernacular wide? Hey, let's just call him chatty. I was like, I want to hit this man in the jaw. Like he's so smug. He's a actually guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's so irritating. But Con Air, I want to watch that film every day until the day I die. It's everything that I want in a film and more.
All right, here's the proper overview. Clay Riddle, a graphic novelist trying to reconnect with his estranged family, is at Boston Airport when a signal known as the Pulse turns everyone currently using their phone into zombie-like killers called phoners. He escapes the airport and makes it back to his apartment with the help of a train conductor named Tom McCourt. That's Sam Jackson. There they meet a young girl, Alice, and the three of them decide to head north to find Clay's family. They come across a boys' private school where two survivors show them a large group of phoners sleeping in a field and acting as a hive mind. They burn the field of phoners and move on. On their way north, they then hear of a radio-free zone called Cashwhack and start experiencing shared dreams of a man in a hoodie who Clay has already drawn in his graphic novels.
That's where I started losing touch with the plot.
Oh, for me it was much earlier, but we'll get... As they get close, they learn that Cashwhack is a trap, but Clay heads off on his own, sure that his son is there.
Wait, what's Cashwhack, sorry?
Cashwhack is the radio-free zone thing. That's like where they were going because they were like, all the survivors are going there, but then they learn that that's a trap. The phoners are drawing them there. When he arrives, he finds an enormous group of phoners walking in a giant circle around a radio tower with the hoodie man in the middle. Clay kills him and finds Johnny infected, then setting off a giant explosive to take out the tower and the phoners. However, it is then revealed that this didn't happen and Clay is infected in the circle.
Yeah. That ending was insane. I had to watch it twice because I was like, surely I've missed something. Surely they wouldn't just show you something that's a lie and then they go back and instantly.
They fully just do it. It's so confusing. Okay, we'll get back to the ending.
Yeah,
I want to get to that
insane.
at the end. So one of the things I will say, I appreciate at the beginning, he's at the airport. The credit intro thing is really quite odd. But then they kind of get right into it.
They do.
And I really liked that.
Me too. I was excited because I was sure it was going to be some bullshit setup for like 20 minutes before something kicks off. But he's at the airport for like 5 minutes and then all of a sudden everyone just starts spasming.
But it really is like so like random, unexplored, and one of the most unintentionally funny scenes I've ever seen.
And I have to say, John Cusack gives nothing, where he's just watching it being like, what's going on? I don't get it. Like, people are bashing their brains out against walls and killing each other with knives, and he's just like, what?
You can see him decide to act before giving any line. And it literally is just a montage of like him looking around and then people holding a phone up and going,
Michelle just shook her headphones entirely off of her head. That's method.
Yeah, I'm acting more than John Cusack did.
You're giving 110% more than John Cusack ever gave.
It's a low bar for me to cross.
You're right. He's good at playing losers because as a hero, he is just so subpar. He is so... He gives nothing, and he's not. I don't find him likable. It's funny that we mentioned Stand By Me though, because he did play Gordo's older brother in a flashback in Stand By Me, and it's the only thing I've ever really enjoyed him in.
I really liked him in Better Off Dead and Being
I've never
John
seen
Malkovich.
Better Off Dead. I did like him in Being John Malkovich, but I guess I haven't watched that as much as I've watched Stand By Me.
It's because it's not challenging, right? Like I feel like when you're that level of acting, two things happen. One is you've reached your peak, and that's emotionally hard to get over. So he clearly doesn't kind of care about doing a movie like this.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I remember when in the 80s when I was the fucking A-lister. The other thing is that like there is no challenge in it. So there's no motivation to try at all. And so he doesn't.
Yeah.
And I feel like you see that a lot where it's like a movie like this. We've seen that a lot on this list where it's a movie like this, a lower tier action-y thing starring someone who was more famous 10 to 15 years earlier.
Yeah. Samuel L. Jackson as his companion throughout the film. Like, what blew my mind is at the end when Samuel L. Jackson's like, you can't do it. Like, you're going to commit, it's a suicide mission. Like, don't go. And he's like, I got it. My son's there. And then I think John Cusack says to him, like, I couldn't think of like a better best friend. And I was like, they're best friends now. They've known each other for like 2 days in very stressful circumstances.
His characters,
I wouldn't feel comfortable.
His character's also strange. Yeah, you're right. I also wouldn't be like, you're my best friend. Wait, he doesn't have any other friends now.
Yeah, but I feel like bonding through this traumatic situation, I feel like you could be like, you know, like there's so much more you can say by not saying something.
Say a companion at least.
You can even just look at each other and the audience knows,
Yeah.
oh, you guys have a bond
And
now.
then they do the predator handshake, you know, hand to elbow.
There's literally this bit. Fury Road is so good.
Yeah.
There's this bit at the end after like Furiosa, Charlize Theron's character, and Max, Tom Hardy. At the end of the film, spoiler, they both make it out alive. They've helped each other and have this unspoken bond that they've now created. But instead of talking about it, there's just a bit where they see each other through a crowd of people and they just kind of give each other a nod. And that's all you need. You're touched by it. You're like, oh, that's all I needed.
It's like that equally good bit in It's Always Sunny where they're on rival dinner tables and then they look at each other across the crowd. Yeah, Mac and Charlie. And they
stare at each other wide.
That's one of my favorite moments in cinematic history. It's so good.
It's Always Sunny it's so... I could rewatch It's Always Sunny forever and ever. I would still find it funny.
But Sam Jackson in this, like, Tom McCourt is a confusing character to me because he's written like he's the most insightful man in every room and everything he says is the most surface level reading of everything. There's a bit, for example, where they've just seen people fully go feral, kill each other, and then they're like sitting in his apartment and he says something almost word for word. If people are going to survive, they need to let go of their pretenses, you know? They're going to need to try a little harder. And I'm like, you fucking... I know. We're going to have to try and dig a little deeper than our normal 9-to-5 job. Of course, yeah.
There's a bit where they all have their revelation. They're all asleep and they all have the dream of the same guy from Clay's drawings.
In the book, he's called the Raggedy Man.
Right.
From this point onwards, we will refer to him as such.
What was the name of him in this film?
He was not given a name in the film.
Okay, cool. There's this bit where Clay wakes up and they all realize that they've had his dream about the same guy.
Yeah.
And then Clay goes, I drew him. Like, he's one of my illustrations. And then I think Samuel Jackson's character just goes like, the man on your walls. And I was like, I didn't need that bit of dialogue. Like, that was just so unnecessary. There were so many bits of dialogue that like completely threw me.
There's a bit later in the bar where he's talking about the fact that he drew him and stuff, and he's like, there you go, drawing devils. And so I'm like, it's like the conversation I remembered, like, specifically men that I knew at film school having between the ages of 18 and 22, where it's almost like someone cosplaying a conversation.
Yeah.
They like think they're going through the motions of having a deep conversation without saying anything.
Yeah.
That's every character in this in every scene.
I know that myself as a writer, I struggle with dialogue because a lot of the dialogue that I write is too on the nose, and a lot of the time when I read it, I'm like, oh, I've shown that and I've said it. Why do I need to say it as well? I'm just going to show it. And I know that my strengths lie a lot more in action than it does in dialogue. So my own trick is to just remove as much dialogue as you possibly can. It makes for a stronger film. It just does.
I think what you're thinking of is using cinematic language to convey emotion and thought because it's a fucking movie.
Yeah, because look, there's definitely a place for dialogue-heavy films. I like a lot of dialogue-heavy films, but usually the plot has to take a backseat because you focus on the dialogue more.
Also, I like dialogue-heavy films, but when I'm watching a dialogue-heavy film, it's not like the dialogue is how I'm knowing what's happening.
Yeah,
It's actually
100%.
not at all how I know the emotion and story.
That's exactly it, because good dialogue is often subtext. It isn't someone saying, I want you to go to that room. It's them thinking, how can I get that person to go to that room without having to ask? Because I have all of these issues around asking them for things. I will think of an issue that they need to leave the room right now.
But if I took that approach, would I ever come up with a line like in this where Alice is covered in blood? She's just had to kill her mother. And so John Cusack looks at her and goes, oh, my girlfriend might have some jeans. And I have plenty of pajamas. And that's sort of the end of that moment.
Great guy.
It's so tonally different than everything else. It just stood out to me so much that I wrote it down.
You know something I did like about this film?
What?
There's that young kid that they find at the school with the old like teacher that pretends to have an English accent. This kid is a terrible actor and he's not a great character. He's always just kind of with the group being like, don't do it, don't go, I'm so scared.
He has nothing, and it shocks me to no end that he doesn't die, but Alice does. That's wild.
That's right, because Alice was actually an interesting character. She had a good scene with John Cusack right before she died. But that kid often gets really upset and starts crying, and he's a teenage boy. And I'm like, well, that's first of all nice. And then what's also nice is that John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson keep consoling him, like keep putting their arms around him and actually like hugging him and holding him. And I'm like, this is nice. It's nice to watch men hugging a teenage boy while the teenage boy cries. Yeah. It sounds like a really small thing, but I feel like just watching any man get to break down on camera. Like I was watching this thing the other day with Claude, and it was a fully grown man just actually sobbing. I know. Sobbing at a table because he was really upset about something. And I was like, this is taking me aback because I never get to see this.
Yeah.
Men always process their emotions, at least on film, by getting angry and throwing shit and walking out or brooding. But this guy just burst into tears. And I was like, this is good.
Certainly, I don't think the problem with this movie is sexism or toxic masculinity, which is a good thing.
It's so refreshing for this list, to be honest.
Yeah, on this list especially, actually, we should praise this way higher. This meets the bare minimum of depicting both men and women. Yeah. Crazy. I will say one of my favorite bits on the note of like people kind of playing against type, they're running away from, there's a group of phoners is after them because one of them sees them and then they shoot him. And then they're like running away in the woods and they're right on their tail. They've just found a bunch of guns. Actually, to side note, it's so telling to me that I feel like growing up when I saw post-apocalyptic things or disaster movies, the way characters find guns in American movies is, oh, there's a police station. Oh, there's a weapons cache. Or one of them is just like, I have guns or whatever, right? And in this one, the way they find it is they find a guns rights advocate's house and they're more scared to go in than of the other phoners. Yeah. That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
That's the world.
That's America, man.
So they're loaded with weaponry and they're running away. And then Sam Jackson literally goes, oh, fuck this. And he turns around and they just fully shoot almost all of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so you were fine. It's so stupid.
There's that bit at the end where he's confronting the Raggedy Man and he drives him over, which, by the way, he drives him over so slowly. Like the Raggedy Man is in front of the car and he gets in the car and he just drives so slowly, crushes him.
No. He drives towards him. The Raggedy Man goes like, and then he like bonks him a little bit and he flies back.
And then he gets out of his car and he just walks over the Raggedy Man, just shoots the shit out of him like again and again. And I was like, there's no watching a man shoot another character. There's no conflict. There's no suspense.
He didn't have to try very hard.
So silly.
The way he got through the phoners was to drive slowly. And then he drove ever so slightly faster to hit him.
Let's talk about that whole end sequence.
Okay,
that was
let's skip
ridiculous.
ahead to that. And then I want to go back to at least one other thing.
I don't want us to somehow forget this end sequence because it's so insane.
I forgot. He does have a name in the film. I wrote it down. It's the president of the internet. What? Remember, there's that guy they meet from like Groveland, Mass. He's the only guy who talks like he's from Massachusetts. He's wicked smart.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he's the president of the internet. I'm like, what the?
Oh my god.
What the president of the internet? But yeah, this whole end sequence. There's a couple of things like I want to talk about the school scene, but we can go to it after if you want and do the end scene now.
You talk about the school scene. Then
okay.
We'll do the end scene.
Because the school scene was so wild. So like they're on the journey. It's at this point you kind of realize that like, yeah, this is an adaptation from a book because it's like kind of an episodic road movie, which is not how it's set up at the beginning. They're just ambling around post-disaster. Also, I will say, this is one of the worst cut movies I've seen. There's so many little bits. I'm like, 100%. That went nowhere. Just fucking throw it out. Throw it out in the edit. What are you doing?
It's so bland.
It's loose.
The example of him bonking him with the car
loose.
is a good example of like this entire film, which is like any potential they could have to like make things exciting and like engaging. They're like, nah.
It's directed. It's also mixed badly. It's so impossible to hear the dialogue. I downloaded subtitles for it because I was like, I can't hear anything that's going on. But there's like to prove the editing and direction doesn't make sense. There's a scene where they're like hiding behind a trolley and they see that there's a group of the phoners and they're like, okay, how are we going to get past? And then this woman and someone else on a motorbike like drive fully towards them. Your first thought as an audience is, what are they doing? Do they have a plan? And then they get close to them and start driving back. And then another group of phoners was just behind a van that's in the shot that they've driven past and just like jumps on them and gets them. And then they're like, and then they just like walk away because they're like, I guess that's a distraction that we can go. And you're like, wait, so were they doing anything? Were they just not doing anything? And then at the end of it, it's just like a montage of wide shots. I'm like, why include the scene at all?
Yeah.
Get it out of your fucking movie.
Yeah.
Cut straight to them on the road.
Yeah.
This is nothing.
That's ridiculous.
It's just confusing. You didn't think about anything of how this is communicated to the audience.
Deus Ex Machina as well. It's a real thing and it's a real problem.
So they get to the private school, which is very strange. And there's just a little boy and his much older male companion. This is a strange dynamic.
Oh, but they were friends, right?
Historians said they were friends. night falls and they're like, oh, we know what's happening with the phoners, and they show them on the football field. All of them are there, just in a big like mound intertwined with like their eyes glowing or something, or they had phones or something. The wildest thing to me is that there's like this ambient music playing, and no one is addressing that the music that is quietly and hauntingly playing is the
Yes.
I'm like, why is this meme from 2009 the song in this 2016 movie about phones?
That's all I could think of as well.
And why is the little boy would know?
Yeah.
He would know.
He played it. I remember this meme from when I was 7.
It just, I cannot fathom the choice of it being like a meme song a decade out of date. Like,
I just wonder if anyone involved
so
somehow
wild.
just didn't know it was a meme.
No, they had to know. So I think someone knew and their boss didn't know, right? I think Todd Williams and the editor are both like 60 and didn't know. And the assistant editor was tasked with finding a song, and they were like, this one. And they were like, okay, cool.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
And all the younger people like...
And meanwhile, their friends were like, dude, it's been years. That's not funny.
It's not funny anymore. What happens to these memes that are just out of date?
I think they... Well, I mean, theoretically, they just continue to exist on the internet until someone stops paying the hosting fees.
I have a theory that, like fashion, trends come in cycles. Someday soon, the Borat "my wife" joke is going to be so fucking funny again. Not. It's funny.
Oh my god.
Trollololol. When I think about it, it's pretty funny.
Oh my god.
20-year cycles, babies. Those memes are coming back. The baby fist bumping meme, it's on its way back in. You better get fucking ready.
I do miss an era where memes were just a cutout of something onto an alternate colored triangle background thing, and then it would just be a word in impact font.
Yeah.
Success. Fail. The Velociraptor guy's thinking about something.
The Velociraptor guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So easy to make a meme. You would just put impact font on something.
There's going to be a date, like I reckon.
Now it has to have 8 layers of irony.
In exactly like 10 years, Vines will also come back into fashion. We'll do 6-second videos all over again.
I think I'm already seeing people on TikTok doing very short videos. But what the second half of it is like, then they have a conversation where the old guy theorizes about the nature of these things. He's wrong
what
at every.
TikTok is this?
Oh yeah, this is old guy TikTok. It's great.
I am on old guy TikTok. That's where I am.
He's wrong on everything. For one thing, he's like, oh yeah, it's the next stage of human evolution, which I think is wild. For one thing, the movie implies repeatedly that the Raggedy Man is the one behind it, whilst never explaining that at all.
What? Yeah, what's with the Raggedy Man in general?
It's never explained, and the summaries of the book I could find didn't explain it
Why does he
either.
come out of this guy's drawings, and why is Clay the hero? And why does Clay not question it more?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't even explain like what the pulse is or where it comes from.
I don't even know where to start with this
The closest
film.
it comes is just him arbitrarily saying, oh yeah, this is the next stage of human evolution and they're going to war against us, which is crazy to me because evolution repeatedly is really good at survival. And it's insane to me that this hive mind doesn't have a keeping watch system because they at nighttime sit in a big open field unhidden and are unable to move. So they get trodden on and set aflame and they don't do anything, but they're literally meant to be more evolved. Fucking like little tiny animals have evolved a system to look out for predators at nighttime. It's nothing. It's the most idiotic surface level comprehension of how to make a fucking point about phones. I hate it. It's stupid. It's someone dunking on society as written by someone who doesn't know anything.
I'm sensing you're upset.
I just thought it was dumb.
Let's talk about it.
No, let's talk about the end scene. Yeah, because that end scene is wild. He drives up. It's so dark. You know, people who criticize the Battle of Winterfell Game of Thrones episode for being too dark? This was darker.
Oh, wow.
This was more dark.
I thought that the concept of all of the phoners moving around a circle around this tower was kind of creepy. Like, I get it because, like, in the way that a lot of like mass zombies moving in circles is quite creepy. Like,
I think
it's not an original premise, but it on screen, I was like, that's kind of scary. I
think
get it.
It would have been creepier if they did the classic zombie like shamble, like, you know, like stepping, you know. Instead, what they do is very tightly pack and totter.
Yeah.
So they kind of look like they're a little off balance and they're just like jiggling while moving forward very little. It's like just like 5 centimeter steps at a time while they like jiggle about.
Yeah.
It looks really funny.
But it's just he gets there. He, as we said, bonks the Raggedy Man and shoots him repeatedly. And you as a viewer are like, Okay, well, that's done. Then he finds his son.
Does he win?
Then he finds his son, Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny, and
hugs him, detonating.
He like crawls through all the phoners who, for no reason no reason at all, are just like not reacting to him. He sees that Johnny is infected though, is key, and then he hugs him, and then
makes a call to detonate the.
But before that, we hear them start screaming. And then it like the Raggedy Man is now standing up and it does this like big crash zoom on him and it's the funniest shot in anything I've ever seen. Yeah. Hey, listeners, I'm going to make it a GIF and I'm going to attach it to the Twitter post of this because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's a great reaction post because it's just crash zoom him open mouth, ah.
But then it cuts after the explosion. It cuts to him and Johnny walking down some train tracks together, holding hands and chatting. And they see on the tree some initials. What were the initials meant to denote?
He asked the boy to put the initials of the three of them. The boy, the woman, they
the
find
way that they go, so
yeah,
they can find their way
exactly.
back. But then it's revealed that he's actually a phoner in the circle, and he didn't actually save Johnny in the first place. But it's almost like they're like. My question was, when they went to the train tracks, I was like, did they not just die in that explosion? And then it's revealed that that's also a lie and that he didn't even save Johnny in the first place. Yeah, and I was like, I just got lied to twice in a row.
Because we see this big shot of it coming in. The van is still there. So the explosion didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then
so
the explosion was a lie.
The train tracks were a lie.
He's also way too low in the frame. And again, because he's tottering, it's just the guy that we've seen like looking a little worse going, I mean, I can't do a visual gag on a podcast, but he really is just jiggling.
How do we get down this track? And when are we getting to trivia?
Let's do trivia now. IMDb trivia! Like many of the movies of this type, it was harder to find like certain kinds of trivia. I do have some longer ones. And I thought this was very interesting because of some of the things we've done recently. So as I said, it was based on the 2006 novel of the same name by Stephen King. Dimension Films announced in March 2006. So March in 2006. That Eli Roth would direct the project after finishing Hostel Part 2.
No!
He exited the project saying there was just... I didn't write it down, by the way, but I read a different quote of his about his pitch, which was basically to like expand the scope of it and make it ultra violent, like a Roland Emmerich event movie, but as a zombie thing. He said it was a really cool take on the zombie idea. Whatever. So Roth exited the project in 2009 saying there was just sort of a difference in opinion on how to make the film and what the story should be. And there's a different direction the studio wants to go with it. It was very friendly. This is why I saved this quote. It was very friendly because it's the Weinsteins. They made Inglourious Bastards and we're all friends.
Oh, of course. Eli Roth is a creep. Eli Roth is a fucking creep. You can't tell me otherwise.
Here is another piece of trivia. Mm-hmm. Among them, this is wild. Among many differences from the source material, in the book, the zombie-like infected continue to have their brains rewritten every night and evolve further psychic abilities, including telekinesis, which allows them to fly. This is explained as the infection having unlocked the human brain's latent supernatural potential, which they do allude to in this when the boy says, if your brain is a hard drive, it would say 2% full, which is idiotic and not how the human brain works, despite pop culture and movies repeatedly stating that.
I just wish we could have seen them fly. I really wish we could have seen them fly.
If he is driving towards ultra slowly the Raggedy Man and then he starts flying, best movie of the year.
Best fucking movie.
Here is one that I might cut out because it makes me so uncomfortable.
Okay.
When he was cast to play Tom McCourt, Samuel L. Jackson was unaware that his character was gay. During an interview with Playboy years before, Samuel told the magazine that he would never kiss another guy or cross-dress for any role, no matter how large the paycheck, and he stuck to his word by refusing to make out with another man in this film.
Oh my God.
This is 2016.
Wow.
I know it was filmed before gay people could get married in America, but they could by the time this came out.
Wow.
And then there's Sam Jackson going, I refuse, no matter the paycheck. And we know exactly how big Sam Jackson's paychecks are. You're telling me for millions of dollars you wouldn't kiss another man? You got to work through some shit, man.
Yeah.
Coward.
Yeah.
Grow up. This is something that I thought was funny. Stephen King announced in 2009 that he had written a screenplay for the movie and had created a new ending based on reader complaints about the book's ending, which I thought was funny because we did nothing but roast the ending of this movie.
Yeah, the ending is terrible. So wait, his screenplay wasn't the one that remained in the film, right?
His officially, the one that we watched is written by Stephen King and someone else.
Wow, that's disappointing.
But it's probably the kind of thing where he wrote a screenplay and then like
the other person
someone else like rewrote it, but it's still got 30% Stephen King's work. So by WGA rules, he has to keep his name on it. This is the last piece of trivia, and I mostly put it because I love that someone put this in the goofs section. The main characters throughout the movie leave their cell phones on, but there's very little reason to do so given the plot.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you want to hear some reviews?
I do.
Reviews! All right, this has 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, and we're still in the 4.3s on IMDb. Jeanette Katsoulis of the New York Times said it was wholly unable to deliver even a smidgen of nuance or depth. Yeah. I think that's one of the more brutal critic reviews we've read.
Yeah.
I have a couple of IMDb reviews. Here's the first one called Coming to a Town Near You by, this is spelled with a K-H, Candy Crush.
Nice.
Or I guess Candy Crush.
Candy Crush, the great Candy Crush.
Let me tell you what this movie is about. It's about frequencies. Mixed with juice that stick in everyone's arm, people become antennas, and when the gov once it turns up the signals, and people will become like this. Just saying, 10 out of 10.
I want what she's having.
Mixed with that juice.
Yes.
I mean, my favorite part of Cell was the juice.
I loved the juice.
I loved the arm juice.
The arm juice was huge for me.
No one shoots up even once in this movie.
What film did this person watch?
Here's another one called Very Creative. I really enjoyed this movie by Sheila Wells 825. Sheila, the I is before the L, right?
In Sheila, the name? Yes, it is.
Yeah, so then this is not Sheila Wells, it's Shelia Wells.
Shelia Wells.
Any movie that has two great actors, such as Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, I know it's going to be a great movie to watch. Well done by all the actors. It kept me very entertained. Except for the fact how or who started this evilness. The ending could have been a little better when there was a happy ending. All that for his son, and yet he ended up just like one of them and lost his son. Bummer. 10 out of 10.
No, you know what? That's a good review. That's a good review.
No, it's not, because it ends with 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 is stupid, but everything they said is true.
Everything they said is true. No, not well done by all the actors.
Not well done by all the actors.
Maybe John Cusack and Sam Jackson's worst movies.
They just really tapped into our issues with the film, though.
Yeah. Nothing Goes Wrong with Stephen King by Balochistan. Enjoyed the story, which it almost reflects the present time. A possible scary fact. 10 out of 10. When I saw this, I'm like, this could really happen.
That was my favorite haiku.
My biggest complaint actually on the this could really happen is that a critical part of the plot is that he thinks his son might be alive because they can still text, and his son plays games on his phone, which is fine. To me, this implies that Stephen King and everyone else involved in this movie thinks that almost everyone exclusively calls on their phone in 2016 rather than messages.
Wait, how does it suggest that?
Because they can still text, but like everyone gets got, including people on planes.
Yeah.
Like planes crash.
No one calls anymore. Like, look, I call a bit more as I get older, but there was definitely a substantial amount of time between the ages of like 17 and 23 where all I would do is text. Yeah. I hated calling people.
With that in mind, what's your review? Oh, you're doing the pulse? You're doing the signal that they do?
I'm the Raggedy Man.
Sorry, I think you mean the president of the internet. Address him as such.
The president of the internet. This film was like, it was a good bad film because it was so garbage. I really enjoyed watching it. Like, it had good actors in it. It had ridiculous action scenes in it. Like, if someone was like, oh, have you seen Cell? It's a bad film. We should watch it. I would potentially watch this again because it was so bad in a fun way, at least for me.
Okay.
But 3.8 out of 10.
Okay.
3.8 out of 10. I didn't find it insufferable.
Yeah, I think you've actually nailed it. I disagree with your review. I wouldn't rewatch it. I think the key reasons why I wouldn't rewatch it are actually the looseness of the edit and the music. because it means that
What, you didn't like tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
But it means that this movie, this like post-apocalyptic action thing, has the same energy as Siberia,
Yeah.
which is one of like the slowest, most boring movies I've ever seen in my life.
Siberia
the music
was
sucks all of the energy. I know it's trying to be a mood piece, but nothing. It means that like there's like full-on action scenes, and I'm like, how is this more boring than anything else? It's so uninteresting, and that's why I wouldn't rewatch it. I do think you could do like a re-edit of it. That would be a fun bad rewatch because it is sloppy and there's some wild shit in it.
Let's get Topher Grace in, man. Let's get that edit happening.
I'm a fucking professional editor. I
What?
have more editing experience than Topher Grace.
You're lying.
He did one re-edit.
You're
all right?
crazy.
Fuck you.
What do you do?
I'm gonna give this 3.7 just to undercut you. I liked it less.
Whoa, that's pretty cool of you. That's a power move.
So that was Cell. Join us on social media. You can find
Join us.
yeah, much like the phoners, this is us blasting out the pulse so that you can join us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Rate Descend Pod. You can find us on TikTok at Rating Descending, or you could email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. I love the emails.
So true, Michelle. We love the emails.
Yeah.
We love them so much. Please stop in and say hello.
Yeah.
And tell us your favorite bad movie today.
Please, I will engage. I will read them out if you so wish.
Yeah. If you say, please read this out, we'll read it out, baby.
Yeah.
You'll be famous.
But I will give you this voice. I'm a little poopy pants.
So it's Brooklyn again.
Shut up.
You can also find us on our personal accounts. I'm on Instagram under Abigail J. Ward.
You can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at michelle.stclair.
And don't forget to drop us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify because it really makes a difference.
Or if you guys know somewhere else that you can review, please do so. I
Even
know
leave us a Google review.
Or a Google review. Yeah. Yelp.
TripAdvisor.
I went to Rating Descending.
Rotten Tomatoes
I had a
even.
good time. Yeah,
we should set up our own IMDb profile so people can review us on IMDb.
Oh my God.
That
sounds
and
like
every
a nightmare.
review is 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Well, what are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching Basic Instinct 2. And when
so
I tell
excited.
you how shocked I am that Basic Instinct had a sequel, I'm keen.
With an as underwhelming a name as 2?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You know what this classic 80s erotic thriller needs? A sequel in the mid-2000s.
90s erotic thriller. Get your fucking
I thought it was
head out of your
1982.
ass. 1992.
Okay, my bad. I'm so sorry. Please, no.
1992 was a totally different California to 1982.
I wasn't alive yet. I didn't know.